For Surrey, White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise and I support this motion put forward by my colleague from Peace River North, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. A few weeks ago, I actually shared the story in my house about a constituent of mine who is now sleeping in her car with her daughter, and just due to lack of housing in the constituency of Surrey, White Rock. And one of the major challenges she has is obviously on affordability. And we now live in a society where this has somewhat become the norm. And we're here, after 2 terms of NDP government, where we have an affordability crisis that has never been worse than it is today in the history of our province. And people are hurting today. And one of my colleagues shared the story about going across the border, the provincial border, into Alberta to get gas and cheaper groceries. Now, I live in South Surrey, and I can tell you, right now, every single day, either the Peace Arch border, the truck crossing, is lined up with British Columbia license plates to go get gas in Blaine or to go get groceries in Blaine or Bellingham. That's happening every single day. And Point Roberts, as my colleague points out. That's every single day. We put forward a solution that people have been calling for. We've been calling for quite a while in this House. It's a solution that will save people money in real time. It can be dismissed, whether $25 or $30 a week. For a lot of people in my riding, for that lady that's now sleeping in her car with her daughter, that's being able to have dinner that night. That's what we're talking about. When we're talking about taking the tax off of home heating, for some of these families, many of these families, when we're talking about families that are $200 away from not being able to pay their bills, $200. I think that's pretty important stuff that we're talking about here today. Now, we talk about a carbon tax, and I know there's people here that they campaigned against the carbon tax in 2009. And things change, and that carbon tax was revenue neutral. Right? Now and people can laugh, and I think even I actually remember, because I worked here at a period of time, I remember the Minister of Health made a speech at UBCM, and he talked about the carbon tax, and he talked about the importance of making sure that went to, I think at the time it was environmentally friendly infrastructure. That goes into general revenues now. Right? It was a good speech, I give him that. But you know what, at the time I think things evolve. But right now, I think when the Minister of Health made that speech, we certainly weren't in the affordability crisis we are now. People actually, I think when he made that speech, gas was, I got it here, I think gas was maybe a $1.15, maybe even a little bit less than that. But we see it now, and somebody says we've been having challenges in this province when it comes to affordability for a few years now. And now we're at a crippling rate. And we see it every day when people get their bills or when people go to the pump. And those gas prices aren't just inflicted when you fill up your car. As my colleague from Delta points out, they're inflicted when you go to the grocery store. It's everywhere. It's when you get your restaurant bill. If you can afford to go to a restaurant at this point, which many people just can't. Or when you buy your produce for that restaurant. It's all there. And that relief helps everybody. So, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the importance of speaking. I'm disappointed. We saw over the weekend that the NDP chose to triple down on a tax, and only in NDP land can you see taxes go up, emissions go up, and somehow that makes sense to them, right? That all seems to calculate out, and that Wouldn't hire any of them as accountants because that math does not work, but that's, in their view, that's economics. So
Thank you,
I
member.
want to thank Mr. Speaker for the time to speak to this important issue today.